Alyssa and I live in New York. So there's a lot of misconceptions about living in New York. You get both sides of the media, romanticizing it, like over romanticizing it, and then people who really under romanticize it. So what is it really like? So I'm going to be debunking a few myths about New York and exploring the actual realities of living here through my experience. I moved to New York when I was 18 years old and I'm 20 now, so I've been here on and off for about 2 years. So the first most common misconception about New York is that it's expensive. I was really hesitant to say this is a misconception because it's not really a misconception, but I think it is pushed, the narrative is pushed that New York is just impossible to live in. That is absolutely not true. Specifically Manhattan. Manhattan is pretty expensive, but the more up you go, so the more like the heights, closer to the Bronx, but not necessarily the Bronx you go, it is a little bit cheaper. The cost of living for an apartment is really, really expensive. That is not a misconception. But when it comes to cost of living, there's definitely ways around that. For example, food is pretty pricey here, but if you have a local fruit stand or veggie stand, you can get food at a reasonable cost. I would argue that the cheapest grocery store here would be Trader Joe's. For one box of blueberries at Trader Joe's, it costs roughly around $5. At my local fruit stand, I can get 3 boxes of blueberries for the same price. I can get 1 box for $1.50. It really depends on where you go. Also, eating out is really expensive here, but there's places with like pizza for $1.50. I'm from California. That is insanely cheap for me personally because, nothing's that cheap in California. Also, coffee. If you buy coffee out, stop. Just don't do that here if you're trying to save money. Unless you go to Motto Espresso, everything's $3.50. That doesn't exist in California, which is my greatest comparison. And even in a place like Oklahoma, where I'm originally from, you can't really get coffee for $3.50. So really, New York is expensive, so I guess me calling it a misconception and debunking it as a misconception might be false, but I just think that that narrative is overly pushed. You're just going to have to work much harder to find deals and steals around the city. The second thing is safety. How safe do I feel as a woman, a young woman in New York? It's not great. I had the privilege of living in Sydney, Australia for a year. Compared to that, New York is super dangerous and Sydney is super safe. Now compared to where I previously lived, which is California, Los Angeles, California, I feel safer here, hands down. I think the biggest thing for me is that I don't drive in Los Angeles, so I walk and there's no one on the streets except for the unhoused community. That makes me as a woman not feel the safest, versus here there's a lot of people on the streets. Being said, there's a lot of people on the streets. So if 1 out of 20 people is a sociopath, then you're running into a lot of people who are a sociopath. Or if 1 out of 15 people are addicted to drugs, you're running into a lot of people who are addicted to drugs. So there are a lot of situations that you just have to be hyper aware of in the city. And I've been chased down the street with a man holding a shoe in his hand, and he rubbed me with the shoe. There are some experiences that you just have to be aware of. Just keep your pepper spray around and you'll be fine. Be smart and you'll be fine. Just maybe instead of holding your phone in your hand while you're walking, put it in your pocket, stuff like that. Just being hyper aware. Other than that, I wouldn't say I feel extremely safe in the city. I think that's the biggest caveat in the city, but I feel safe enough, and I feel like I've developed the skills to take care of me, and it's enough of a support system around me to not feel endangered or feel like I have people to call when I'm in danger. Let's talk transportation. Transportation is absolutely horrible. I'm not gonna even lie. It is expensive and it is inconsistent if it's public. Even if it's a taxi, it's inconsistent. Sometimes it's just faster to walk. Once I was going to Aladdin to see it with my mom, and it literally said that the ETA was 20 minutes. We were 5 blocks away, mind you, so we just walked, and that was a good 8 to 10 minutes. Transportation is just bad, especially the subway system. The subway system is horrible. If it takes you 30 minutes to get someplace, I would leave an hour beforehand because there's so many construction areas. The emergency brakes stop for some reason all of the time. I've had my fair share with the transit, and it's like it's getting worse the more expensive it gets. So it's not great. They're also moving to this new Omni card thing, and it's like $25 more expensive than the Metro cards. And they're like, it's cheap, it's cheap. It's not cheap. It's so overpriced. Like, it's like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't get it. It's also just not safe. I've seen a man urinate in the subway, and that's more than I've ever seen before. So I am not in love with the subway system. Shocker. Everyone complains about it. That is true. It is horrible. Sometimes it's just faster to walk, and at least I get my steps in, you know, like I know I'm gonna be like having some like nice calves by by the end of the year. Like, at least there's that, you know? If you've heard, there's like a housing crisis in New York. It is very true. It is so hard to get an apartment here, but you can do it. I would check in places you wouldn't think of checking. For example, everyone wants to live Midtown and below Manhattan in that upper part of Brooklyn. I promise you, the commute's not bad if you just live 20 more minutes up. It's bad because like transportation's not great, but it's definitely doable. You'll get a better price, and there's just more housing up. Yeah, there's some political stuff that's wrong with that because gentrification, but if you need a cheaper place to live and a place that actually has vacancies, look up. Also, I don't know why no one moves to Queens, but I feel like no one moves to like Astoria, Queens. But if you're commuting from the very tip of Manhattan, the Heights, all the way down, then you can commute from Queens. Like, let's be real. So just look around. You can find a place. Lastly, is New York lonely? Everyone complains about loneliness in New York. And honestly, I have to say it kind of is to an extent. I think what's interesting is I have friends, really close friends that I went to like school with, high school with, that live here. And I would say those are like my closest friends, but we don't see each other ever because everyone's super busy. But what I will say is the whole conception about like friends coming and going is true. Even if you have real close friends, those friends can stay, but the people coming and going are the people in your immediate lives. So your friends might not be in your immediate lives, like your close friends. But your life is going to be who you're with for that period of time. For example, if you're on Broadway and you're doing a show, that's your life, those are your friends, they come and go. Even if, like, you know, your best friend lives a block away, they're in their own bubble, they're in their immediate lives. I don't know, maybe they're in a dance company, that's their immediate life, so that's their circle for that period of time, but you still have each other, if that makes sense. But when you're in New York, your world is your world, and it's such a big city, like, you're focused on you, and your time, you're probably doing all sorts of things, right? Like, you moved here so you can do that. So your circle and the people you're getting really close with, they do come and go. For example, I'm a student, so depending on my semesters or who's in my film class or who's in this musical theater intensive I'm taking, those are going to be my friends, and then they usually come and go. Being said, I usually see my close friends a few times a year, and we just give each other updates, and it's really nice, like having people that I know that I would call for the deeper stuff. So if you have close friends in the city, just know you might not see them as much if they're not in your immediate circle. That's the key. That's a key point. But it's not lonely. It's not lonely, just you have to know what it is. You have to know that people are in a constant state of impermanence here, and everything's in a constant flux. And once you're in that like lifestyle, then it's great. It's not lonely, and you can still keep in touch. People move away, yes, but you know, they might be in, I don't know, Chicago, and be like, hey, I have a friend here, they want to do a film, we'll fly you out. Like, you can still keep those connections. They're not dead and gone forever. So that's it. I hope you liked this video, and I hope it helped you a lot if you're thinking of moving to New York, starting school in New York, and this has just been my experience. Absolutely love it here, and yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to grow this community, and Happy New Year, and have a great day. Bye.